Hey guys, hello. I just cleared the slime game, and the end game looks kinda whack. So I don't feel like playing that this stream tonight. I'd rather play something else. So we're just gonna chill out and play some other games. The end game looks like a lot of grinding for nothing. I think I can say for sure with that game, the DLC is all shit they already made. I know that for a fact because there was only one character in the season pass that doesn't already have a full moveset in the story mode. So make of that what you will, but I find that pretty shady personally. They're charging for stuff they already finished. I also unlocked one new character. The only achievement I have left is that's not easy is beating the post game, but like the post game is like not very interesting because it's mostly just fighting. It's just a boss rush. Oh well. It only took 10 hours. That game has a lot of padding, though. I'll tell you that much. Probably just play some roguelikes and beat 'em ups tonight. Slime game was alright. I definitely wouldn't recommend anybody buy that game at full price. It is, not worth full price. Not in the slightest. You could do a lot better for 50 bucks than that game. It was decent, like, base Tails combat, but definitely not something I would go out of my way to play. I think it's actually worse if you're a fan of that property, because it's a very low-budget game. The main character, his eyes look like... he looks like he's dead inside. I think people that are actually a fan of the franchise and, like, not just playing it for Tails combat are probably more disappointed. I mean, I had fun with it. It wasn't like the worst game I played. I had more fun playing it than Arise, but the asking price is way too high. There's just no nice way to put it. You can do a lot better for that than 50 bucks. That's really steep for what it offers. Well, you gotta keep in mind I skipped all the cutscenes. There's a lot of cutscenes, but like the problem is the cutscenes are also like very low effort too, meaning meaning a lot of still images and like visual novel level cutscenes. So not what people who are like fans of that franchise would want. They would want like full animation and stuff. It's like very low budget. So I think even if you're in it for the story, you're probably better off just watching the anime or reading the manga than playing that game, because they got a couple anime clips in there, but they're very sparse. Usually like when something big happens, but not frequent enough to be a selling point. Yeah, Steam says it took 9.6 hours. So yeah, that's kind of steep. You gotta treat it like a Metal Gear game. Metal Gear games are like, they have like 30 hours of cutscenes, but then like the speed run is like 90 minutes. That's kind of what that game is like. It's very similar. Very similar. Cutscene to gameplay ratio is probably pretty low. So when you consider I didn't watch any cutscenes, the game's got about 10 hours of gameplay to roll credits, and then there's a post-game, but I just got to the post-game over here before I fed the cats, and it wasn't, like, terribly interesting, so I didn't feel like really doing it right now. I kind of feel like playing something else. I don't know, I had fun with it. I'll definitely check out the DLC. I was expecting it to be a lot longer, honestly. I kind of like wasn't starting any new games because I thought that game was gonna... I thought it was gonna be like actual JRPG length. You know, like a Final Fantasy or a Tales or Dragon Quest. I wasn't expecting it to be Persona length, because Persona length is like 100 hours. I thought it was gonna be like, you know, 30 to 50, but it was only ended up being 10. So I guess I'll play Atlas Fallen next, because I've got 2 weeks. 2 weeks until Gundam Breaker drops. I thought I was going to be like overbooked, but no, I've got time for Atlas Fallen now. So that game's going to take a lot longer to play, because it doesn't really run really well on the Steam Deck. The Slime game was perfect on Dick. The only time it like ever dropped a single frame was pretty much just like one move that the main character got at the end. That was like the one time that it ever dropped frames. It was definitely it's a good Steam Deck game, if that's like what you're looking for. Just want something to play that want something to play that's not so difficult to set up and tweak. Definitely was a solid Steam Deck game, but I don't know. That's probably the best thing I could say about it. Hopefully the DLC will be a little bit better. Yeah, Final Fantasy X is like that too. Final Fantasy X is like, it's like 6.5 hours of cutscenes. And I know this because the speedrun for the game was about 10 hours. It's a little shorter on PC because of faster loads. But yeah, it's like, that game is like 60% cutscenes to roll the credits. It's like, because the speed run with the cutscenes removed is like 3.5 hours. Yeah, that game, more than half of it is cutscenes. If you just go straight to the end and don't, you know, don't do anything extra, it's 60% cutscenes. It's not like that's a bad thing, but like, the speed run for that game sucked because more than half of it was like not actually playing. Literally 60% of it was waiting around, because you can't skip cutscenes in that game. So it's kind of a, in my opinion, I thought it was kind of a trash speed run. Because you spend so much time, like, not actually playing. More than half of it is not actually doing anything. But yeah, the slime game is definitely, there's a lot of padding in that game. To tell that, like, they didn't have a lot of budget. The budget was probably no money. Especially because you have to look at the main character so much, and the main character's eyes, like, don't move. It's actually very disturbing. How much that the main character is downright creepy to look at, because his eyes don't move. It's like those creepy PS1 N64 era models. They look good until they don't look that bad until you actually have to see their face close up, and then you get, like, creepypasta scared. A childhood friend had a game called Grand Stream Saga, and that game was actually technically impressive because I think it ran at 60 FPS on the PS1. Very few non-fighting games on the PS1 that run at that frame rate, but the characters had no faces at all. They were like straight out of a horror movie. I used to get so creeped out watching him play that. It looked pretty good, but you could tell they had to make some major sacrifices to get it to run at 60, so you got a lot of close-up shots of characters that had no face. It's like I didn't know that this was supposed to be a horror game, but secret horror game. Go look it up, Grand Stream Saga on PS1. No one has a face. They didn't even, like, make a face texture for them with, like, pixel mouth. They just straight have no facial features at all. I think Tales of Symphonia is actually similar. If that game had cutscene skip, the speedrun would go down in time by, like, probably at least 4 hours. That speedrun's, like, I think, like 9-10 hours. But you also can't skip cutscenes in that game. Tales games are kind of bunk to replay, honestly. Ones where you can't skip cutscenes. It's like, yeah, they have the grade shot, but, like, the problem is you gotta mash buttons through those cutscenes unless you really want to watch the entire story again. It definitely was a blessing when they started letting you skip cutscenes. The Tales of Symphonia speedrun is greatly bloated by unskippable cutscenes. Shit. I know for a fact no one bought the slime game because there's no one streaming it on Twitch. I checked, I think it was yesterday, before I came over here to work. It had 8 concurrent viewers. 8 concurrent viewers for a game that just released last week is, like, catastrophically bad. That's really bad. 8 viewers for something that just came out, like, barely a week ago. That's incredibly bad. That means 2 things. It means that no one bought the game. It means that they also didn't sponsor anybody. Because I remember when I did that stream when I was working over here and somebody said there were like 3 people streaming it. There should be a lot more. At least like some partnered stream like mine that's struggling to pay bills and getting paid to play it. There's none of the sort for that game at all. It's completely dead directory. Big yikes. I don't know, maybe they'll break even somehow because the game is clearly non-existent budget. They spent nothing on it, maybe they'll make some money back. They really need to reevaluate how stupid they think weebs are. Like, yeah, weebs will buy the dumbest stuff known to man, but a $50 game that looks like that is a big stretch. That's reaching really far. I think, like, for $20, I could honestly recommend that game. You know, hey, you get a weekend's worth of entertainment. If you want to buy the DLC, have that be like $40 tops. Because the DLC is very clearly, at least most of it, is cut out from the game. They already made it. They're just cutting it out to make more money. And I know that for a fact now because I actually have cleared the game. And like, 2 of the 3 characters that they're selling in the season pass, you fight them in the story multiple times. You fight them multiple times. Which means that they have a full moveset. Which means that they're completely scamming you in that season pass. They're supposed to be like the big selling point of the DLC, but I know for a fact now that I actually cleared the game and rolled the credits. Their movesets are already done. The voice acting is already done. There's no reason why they shouldn't be in the game already. A lot of people say that they hold DLC back a lot, and it's not always true, but this is definitely a case where it is true. I can verify it myself. The only one I did not fight in the DLC was the one that's supposed to be in the second batch. That guy is not, he's not a boss fight, but the other 2 are. Complete moveset. Street Fighter Cross Tekken all over again. Cross Tekken's DLC scam lives on. I remember that stream of that guy that was streaming the DLC characters the day the game came out. That was fucking funny. Some guy found the data to unlock them in the game. They're already fully playable. Cross Tekken's like a masterclass of how to burn through all the goodwill they built through bringing Street Fighter back and having it be like a really good game. Like, no, we're gonna burn through all that goodwill. I think Cross Tekken is actually a really big reason why. Obviously, companies still do that, where they have the DLC is like completely done or like mostly done, and they don't include that data in the patch anymore because Cross Tekken poisoned the well and made it a lot harder to do that. They totally still do that, but it's less obvious. The slime game is the most obvious it's been, where like, okay, you guys already finished this. You're trying to nickel and dime the people that are like hardcore fans of this franchise or anime or whatever. That's like the only reason. I hope the modes are like substantial, because I think that season pass is actually going to be a really shit deal when it comes down to it. Side quests in that game don't even reward anything good. Buildings are just stat boosts. There's like a total of like 3 buildings that actually do something that aren't just stat boosts. So I think the fact that they're hyping up the buildings and side quests so much is really shady. And then the characters are mostly already done. Full moveset, voice acting, animation is all done, but it's not the base game. Bamco pulling a Cross Tekken. Wonder if that's gonna happen with Gundam Breaker 4. Somebody just like unlocks the new suits and stuff. Or finds the new gear like dummied out and like codes it back into the game. It's a very real possibility. And now I know that Bamco has no morals. They'll totally sell you something that's already in the game. There's nothing stopping that from happening. What's the most you guys have been scammed on DLC? Worst DLC I bought, personally, although the Slime Game DLC might be a close contender, if my predictions are true. Worst DLC I ever bought was the Deluxe Edition for Stranger of Paradise. Was a fucking scam. And I'll tell you why. Because they give you a unique skin. I forget what weapon it's from, what game it's from in Final Fantasy. I don't remember. But the problem is that it doesn't scale. So you get it, and then it's good for like 10 minutes of gameplay. It's like completely stupid. Like, you can't even scale up this weapon skin. It's the worst DLC I've ever bought. Now, the season pass for that game was worth buying in the end, but that, in terms of, like, pre-order bonus, it was the most useless thing I've ever bought. It's good for, like, literally the first level, the first 20 minutes of the game. Then it's completely power crept. Now, that's partially a problem with how that game was designed, and that the first playthrough really sucks and doesn't really allow you to do a lot of interesting things. But the fact that they thought it was okay to sell something like that that's literally useless because of how the game's mechanics work is just baffling. Most worthless thing I've ever bought. Buying the deluxe edition is basically just the season pass. The pre-order bonus is not even a waste of money, it's just a meme. Ouch. Oh, damn. It kept giving me attacks I couldn't counter. Oh well. It's kind of pointless to try to do the extra mode on this because they're going to be adding a lot more stuff to the game, but that was a decent try. No rage. Alright, let's play something else. Actually, let me see if I can craft anything. Apparently, Tales of Arise DLC is a strong contender, although I did not buy or play it, but from what I hear, the Rise DLC is almost completely palette swaps. There's like one unique boss fight and a bunch of fetch quests. There's no new moves. There's no new mechanics. You go through a lot of the same areas, and they want $30 for that. So that's probably a strong contender, but I can't personally critique it because I didn't buy the game, but that seems like one that might be close. really interesting how they said they weren't even gonna make DLC for that game, but they did, and then it's not worth buying. So even people that like really liked the game didn't buy it. I don't know who it was supposed to be for. I don't know about you, but for a $30 DLC, I don't necessarily need it to be long, but it should have a significant amount of unique content for that price. It's $30 these days is a whole other game. A lot of this stuff you see on the screen right now, you could buy multiple of them. You could probably buy like 2 of these games in some cases. So if you want $30 and the only thing you're going to give me is like one unique boss fight that's recycled twice, that's a shit deal. That's a really bad deal. I would feel embarrassed buying something like that personally. Alright, I got another hour to go. Let's see what else is good to play. Actually, I can look through here. What is some of the worst DLC I've bought? Samurai Warriors 5 DLC is a strong contender because it adds nothing to the game. It does add more story. The problem is that all the maps are all recycled from the base game, and they add weapons, but the weapons are just skins. They're not actual new movesets, which is like the thing the game needed the most. It actually needed season pass with like at least a couple more movesets, so like more than half the cast wasn't cloned. But no, the DLC is... Let me go ahead and pull it up. I didn't buy it, but I heard it was really bad. At $35. Additional weapon set. They're not actually weapons. They're skins. So they're just skins with stats that you can get in the base game. All the additional scenarios, I think they do have some new voice acting at least, but all the maps are recycled. So I don't know about you. I don't think that's worth $35. I tried the Shadow of the Ninja demo. Yeah. The problem with that game is I did not grow up with it. I grew up with Pocky and Rocky. I grew up with Ninja Warriors especially was the big one for me. And then I did play Wild Guns on emulator when I was a teenager, but I didn't really play Shadow of the Ninja at all. If I did, it was probably like one time. I mean, my neighbor will probably pay me around the time it comes out, so I might get it, but I was kind of probably leaning towards waiting a couple of days, honestly. I'm going to be a little bit strapped for time at the end of the month because Gundam Breaker comes out on the 28th. And if things go right, meaning my friends are able to support me or you guys, I'm planning on going on a brief vacation to go see some friends from the 6th to the 8th. So I'm really going to have to haul ass to get that Gundam Breaker content out. I don't know how long it will take. Mods and stuff, all that's really going to depend on whether the game is good on Steam Deck. And we don't know that yet because they never give us fucking demos on PC. They never give us demos at all. So I don't know how good that game's going to be for Steam Deck. Like Slime Game, I can tell you guys can look at my playtime on here. I played 10.3 hours, and probably like 60% of that was on the Steam Deck, because I'm over here like 4 to 6 hours a day. So a decent chunk of the day I'm over here. Games that I can play on Steam Deck with like at least decent performance, I get through them a lot quicker. I get through them way quicker. If it's stuff like, what's a good example of something I can't play over here? Atlas Fallen, which I just started a few days ago. This game doesn't run that great on Steam Deck, so playing through this is going to take a while, but I'm also not playing it for the channel. It's for my own personal enjoyment. So I don't know if Gundam Breaker 4 is going to run well. Megaton Musashi ran well until the end game, and then it became a slideshow. So that game was kind of bunk on Steam Deck, honestly. I guess we'll see. Guys, got to keep in mind I spent like how much money on the channel this month? On a channel that's not making its investments back. I spent $90 on Gundam Breaker Deluxe, and then I spent like $52 on Slime Game. So I'm at like close to $150. And I'm really not planning on buying any more games this month. I was expecting the Slime Game to last a lot longer, but it ended up being pretty painless to get through. So that's got DLC coming out next week. I don't know. It seems like it's not going to be worth the money, but gaming budget's really tapped right now. Yeah, I saw that. That game actually looks a lot better than it did at launch. I'll give it that much, but yeah. Unfortunately, I was not sponsored to fly out there and play the demo, so neither was anybody else competent, so yeah. It looks a lot better than a lot of the other beat 'em ups that are coming out, that's for sure. Looks like an above average beat 'em up. But yeah, hard to tell with not competent gameplay. Double Dragon Revive, on the other hand, looks fucking terrible. That game looks really bad. It's a Double Dragon cycle. It's like the Sonic cycle. You know how people get hyped up for Sonic games, and they never seem to learn that, like, most of the time they're, like, average at best. The Double Dragon cycle is they actually make a good game, but then it's succeeded by, like, 3 shit games, and then another good game comes out. So it seems like we're already deep into the Double Dragon cycle, because this is what happened when Neon came out. Neon is it's above average. It's definitely not something I really want to go back and play again, but it's a good game. I just think that there's better choices you can play now if you want to play beat 'em up. But they followed that game up with Double Dragon 4, which looked like it was made in a weekend. Despite having they brought the original team back for Double Dragon 4, but it looked like a fucking fan game that was made in a weekend. It looked really bad. That's the Double Dragon cycle. People are like, oh, Double Dragon's back. I'm like, nope. You got Double Dragon Wander of Dragons and then Double Dragon 4 immediately followed Neon. And they're both, like, terrible games. So the next Double Dragon game after Revival might actually be worth playing. Double Dragon is one of those franchises you just have to wonder how it hasn't died. Because there's no consistent quality. There, like, never has been. This is a franchise where the NES port plays better than the arcade game. Keep that in mind. A lot of people don't know that. The arcade version of Double Dragon, the first one, is garbage. It's a shit game. Granted, it did come out before Final Fight, so you have to give it some credit. But like the NES game is objectively better. And that was like legit the first one. It never had consistent quality with Double Dragon at all. Double Dragon 3 on NES is also better than the arcade game by like a massive margin. It's like an objectively better game despite being on much weaker hardware. Pretty much the Double Dragon trilogy are all better on NES than arcade. So even back in the 80s they didn't have consistent quality. And now that it's like so much easier to make games, they can't find anybody that can make a decent one on a consistent basis. Gaiden was awesome. I loved Gaiden. Gaiden's got its shortcomings, but it's a solid beat 'em up. Definitely, for a Double Dragon game, it's way better than a lot of the other ones, for sure. Double Dragon is one of the, like, classic video game franchises that should not be alive. It should have died a long time ago. I'm not saying that stuff like Neon and Gaiden, you know, in advance, like, the actual good ones shouldn't exist. What I'm saying is that the quality is so inconsistent, it's worse than Sonic at his worst. Sonic also goes a really long time without a game worth playing. Like, they released Sonic Superstars last year and everybody was just saying it's objectively worse than Mania, which was basically a fan game and got officially sanctioned and funded. Like, Sonic has so many shit games, but there's enough games worth playing, and you can see why Sonic is still around. With Double Dragon, I honestly cannot say that. Double Dragon's getting an insane amount of games, but, like, the quality is just all over the place. There's plenty of other game franchises that have died for having, like, one bad game. Somehow Double Dragon is like a zombified corpse. Has its moments of greatness, but then goes back to shit again. The last time they had any kind of consistent quality with Double Dragon was the NES trilogy. And that was like 35 years ago. Sonic's not that bad. Sonic's definitely not consistent either, but nowhere near as bad as Double Dragon. in mind, Final Fight had 2 shitty games and didn't survive. But they also weren't consecutive. That's the thing. Shitty Final Fight games is pretty much Final Fight 2 and Streetwise. Revenge if you count that, but Revenge is kind of more of a spin-off. I'm talking like mainline installments. Final Fight couldn't survive that, but Double Dragon is still around somehow. With more bad games than good. Double Dragon should have Survivor's Guilt. Rushing Beat is coming back somehow. That's fucking crazy to me, because I don't know, those games are alright. The first one sucks. The second one is like the most fun. The third one is okay. But I think Rushing Beat X just exists because CD Connection has the rights to all the Jalico stuff. And it obviously doesn't cost much to make. But yeah, the gameplay I saw actually looked pretty decent. I'm actually very excited for that game. I hope it comes out soon, because a lot of the other beat-em-ups coming out I have like no interest in playing. Toxic Crusaders is like mid-tier. At least the demo wasn't very interesting to me. The Power Rangers game, I feel, probably will be okay. It'll be a nice display of pixel art, but the gameplay doesn't look that great. Double Dragon Revive looks fucking terrible. I hope that game is like really early in development and they're actually going to take feedback and make it better. The Karate Kid game, the new beat 'em up from Karate Kid, is published by Game Mill, so has a very high chance of being shit. It's like the only good games that Game Mill has put out is pretty much the Nick All-Star Brawl games. And that's more of a fact that they actually got a good developer. Game Mill always goes for, they take advantage of developers in like developing countries, and they pay them dirt and give them like 6 months to make the game. So it's not entirely a lack of experience. It's more just that they're not given any resources. So the Karate Kid game is probably going to suck. The pixel art looks decent, but the gameplay does not. I don't have high hopes for that one. I can't even think of any other beat-em-ups that are coming out, but yeah. The only one I'm really interested in right now is Rushing Beat X. That looks like the best offering so far. A G.I. Joe game as well. Looks like shit. The demo was really bad. They said that they're going to look into the improving the game, but I feel like the foundation for that game is too jacked. It's like beyond repair. I seriously doubt they can turn that game around, especially because it seems like something that Hasbro just wants to shit out for a quick buck. The Power Rangers game looks more competent. The problem with the Power Rangers game is it just looks like Shredder's Revenge with a Power Ranger skin. And I didn't think the combat in that game was that great. It was like average. The characters were all the same for the most part, except for the DLC characters, which kind of really killed replay value for me. And then also the bosses were in hyper armor, so despite having a decent moveset, the characters were all clones and the bosses didn't really let you do anything with it. So I hope the Power Rangers game will be better, but I don't really expect much. I'll still play it because I'm a Tokusatsu fan, but it's probably a one-and-done playthrough for me. I doubt I'll go back and play that again. I would be shocked if I did. That's pretty much all the beat-em-ups that are coming out right now. Really only one I'm interested in. Toxic Crusaders hasn't been shown in a while, so I'm hoping that that game will get improved, but yeah, that one was... I played the demo, I got bored in like a couple minutes. It just didn't really have anything going on. It's like a lot of these other beat 'em ups. They have like top tier pixel artists. It's like legit better than some of the arcade games that were beat 'em ups. But then like the gameplay is so much worse. So it's like, yeah, you know, the gameplay is not that great. So you could probably get a better experience just watching a stream of somebody playing it. And that's a shame, but that's kind of where we're at with beat 'em ups right now. We got a lot of them coming out, but most of them just don't look great. They're very front-loaded with graphics and presentation, but then the gameplay is nothing spectacular. River City Girls 2 is supposed to get Billy and Jimmy are going to be DLC, and there's supposed to be some new accessories. I should get a review key for this, so I'll definitely cover that. That'll probably be the next new beat 'em up I play. You know, this game was actually pretty decent. Main problem it had was shit hyper-armored bosses, and the fact here, the last update was a year and a month and a week ago. So I think the guy that was making this abandoned the project because it wasn't making money, which is a shame. Like this game had really nice production values. It's like a full 3D Unreal Engine beat 'em up with like tag mechanics and stuff. Like the combat wasn't bad. It had like Monster Hunter style gear as well, which is really cool. But the guy just didn't know how to design a boss fight. There's one boss that staggers. I think it's worse is that some of them also like fly or crawl on the back. Like there's the spider boss that crawls on the back on the web, and you like your ground moveset you can't even barely use, and it doesn't stagger. I would recommend this game if there was any indication that the guy was going to finish it, but I just realized it's been over a year since the last update, so I think this one is cooked. He's not going to go back and finish it, which sucks. I remember sending him some feedback in his Discord server. I'm like, these boss fights aren't great because you have a combo system, and then you have bosses where you can't use it, which never feels good. And he did listen, because this update right here, this July 3rd update, that was the one where he added a boss that could stagger. So it seemed like he was actually receptive to feedback. I feel like I was like one of the only people that was giving him feedback, but I don't know. I've definitely been burnt a lot on early access. This one hurts the most because it's like legit a pretty fun game, and it has a decent amount of content already. It just needed more polish. But I'm going to assume the sales were not great. I think he was like maybe funding it himself, or maybe something happened in his personal life or something. I think it was only made by like one guy. Yeah, this game had promise. Most disappointing. Jitsu Squad. The DLC is still not out. They took money from the Kickstarter for stretch goals, and none of them are out yet. Keep in mind, Evo was last month, right? The game was on Exa Arcadia with the extra character, and we're not ever getting that on other platforms. Exa Arcadia is weird. They basically like don't really have that many original games. They basically take indie games. They take like indie. It's mostly fighting games. They have this, which is a beat 'em up, and then they have a lot of shmups as well. And they add like exclusive content to them, but then they don't release it. So unless you're lucky enough to live in a place that has a cabinet, you can't play it. But yeah, this one stings as well because I was a beta tester on this, and I find it really strange that they don't have the DLC out yet. There's been like no communication at all. The thing that really sucks about this game is that there's no New Game Plus, and they make you grind for your moveset, but you can't keep it. So that really kills replay value. They promised an extra character. They promised like a Bloody Palace style mode, and none of it is released. So, those are probably the most disappointing beat 'em ups. This game has good gameplay. It has great gameplay. Actually, some of the best gameplay of a post Streets of Rage 4 beat 'em up. But the fact that it really needed the extra content and it's not coming anytime soon, if at all, is pretty bad, honestly. And then Tales of Imjin War. It's actually really good. I had fun playing it. I played for 16 hours, as you can see, but it doesn't seem like it's ever actually going to get finished. So, I wouldn't recommend buying that. High chance that game is never going to get finished. I don't know. I mean, this game is worth it. It's got a surprising amount of content. I think the problem is the person that was making this, or people, I don't know if he has like extra people working on it, but they had a lot of content at the start, and then they did a couple major updates, but they were like pretty minor. Give you like a couple hours more of content. It just didn't finish. Just didn't finish the game, so I have a hard time recommending it. That sucks, though. I did really enjoy playing it. But that's the risk you take when you buy early access niche games that like don't have anybody really playing them. There's such a high chance they won't be finished. I've been burnt multiple times. That's just something that happens, I guess. Alright, I got a little bit more time. Let's see if I feel like playing something. I might just go ahead and stream right when I get back and play some Atlas Fallen. See what I feel like. Well, it's partially broken because they did update the game. It's just on an arcade cabinet that you can't get. So, Mr. Din from Brawlers Avenue was at EVO, and he said that he played it. Apparently it was there. So that's something, I guess, but
training system.
I don't know how much that really matters right now. I mean, arcade games have just been PCs and fancy cabinets for like 15 years now. I started with the Taito Type X that Blaze Blue was on. Blaze Blue was on Taito Type X, which is basically just a computer in a cabinet. And that dates back to like 2008. So that's nothing new. The problem is that the distribution of Exa Arcadia is like laughable. It's like barely any. And then also they have exclusive content that they're never going to port, which is the problem. I would argue personally, as somebody who basically lived in the arcades until I was about 25, if Exa Arcadia had distribution and was affordable enough and was accessible to the point that Neo Geo was, that the exclusivity wouldn't matter, because that's basically what Neo Geo games were, right? Neo Geo up until early 2000, for the most part. Yes, they had home ports, but they were like $600 per game, so... If you were a kid, you basically were never going to ever have a Neo Geo. You would have had to have been an adult that was very well off. So technically, you know, they did have home ports. You know, you could get a home port of KOF 2003 like the day it came out, but it was also like hundreds of dollars. So it was like multiple times the price of a game console, like a PS2. So like most people were never going to have that. So Neo Geo actually, to be fair, was not much difference until the Dreamcast and PS2 came out. And then it actually became affordable to actually have an Arcade Perfect port. The problem with Exa Arcadia is like they don't have any distribution. It's so hard to get your hands on it. So the fact that all that stuff is exclusive really sucks. Yeah, Neo Geo MVS cartridge was like $500 or something like that. Hundreds of dollars for one game. So probably no kids had that pretty much, unless their parents were like insanely rich. Like no chance you're ever gonna have something like that. It's just Exa Arcadia is like nowhere, you can't play it, so having all that stuff to be exclusive really sucks. But yeah, it's not like Neo Geo was any different, to be fair. Technically they had home ports, but they're completely out of the price range of like the average person. No, LV, they did do ports, but there just wasn't anything that could run their games until 10 years later. That was the problem. Remember how stripped down the Metal Slug ports were? Those were stripped down like crazy. Like half the animation frames are gone. The Marvel Versus games as well on PS1. You couldn't even tag, and like so many animation frames are cut, and the load times were forever. Like, yeah, they did port those, but even as a kid you could tell, like, okay, this isn't what I played at the arcade. It's like much worse. I remember one point my teacher brought in, this was like in 8th grade, my teacher brought in X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and the kids were like wowed by it, but I was like, dude, this shit sucks. Like, I just played like the actual game, like, you know, last weekend or whatever. This is a cheap copy. I never really cared for those stripped down ports personally. I hated them because I actually went to the arcade regularly. It didn't even impress me as a kid. I'm like, it's nice to have this at home, but it's so much worse. At least the King of Fighters ports were like stripped down, but at least they weren't sacrificed. They weren't compromised gameplay-wise, at least. That was kind of the problem with the Marvel vs. games. The only one that's interesting is Marvel 1, because it actually has like different mechanics. Not paying attention. Let's try again. I'll delete that one.
ノエル・ラムダ11ノエル・ラグナー・ザ・ブラッドエッジ
だりな相手してやるよかかってこいよ
What is her assist move? Any good? I've just never cared for Rachel at all. I pick like the lamest character. Where's Naoto? Where's he? Apparently Tager is going to be a boss, which makes sense. Tager would legit not work in this kind of game. It's also probably why Arakune is also a boss. Yeah, they have a lot of more interesting characters for this kind of game than Rachel. I don't understand that decision.
かかってこいよ。本気にさせてみろ。
I definitely miss being excited about Blaze Blue. Blaze Blue was like a really big thing when it released because Guilty Gear was basically dead. Guilty Gear was dead and buried at that point. Xrd was a good 8 years away. Well, not 8 years, but a good 6 years away. It's actually really exciting to have an ArcSys arcade fighting game again, but problem was they killed the franchise with 800 different versions that only added like one new character. Far worse than anything Guilty Gear did. Like, we got Calamity Trigger at my arcade, and I had to basically pull some strings to suggest that the manager get Continuum Shift. Because it came out, like, so soon after the other one. He didn't want to buy it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you. In retrospect, I don't blame you at all. Not wanting to buy that. Like, you just bought the last one. And then that kept happening. I think the worst was, what was it? Continuum Shift Extend or Chrono Phantasma Extend. I don't remember which one that added, what is her name? Regina or whatever? Only like one character. It was a full-priced balance patch with one new character. And they wanted like $50 for it. Like, that is just... There's no defending that. Blaze Blue is one of those things where like you can't even really feel bad that it died because they just made stupid decisions. I get that it's hard to make sprites. It's hard to make sprites, especially like HD sprites like that, but I'm sorry, $50 for one character and a balance patch is a fucking ripoff. And that is precisely what killed Blaze Blue more than anything else. There were other things that killed it, but I always think that was the main contributing factor. Was spamming expansion packs that were greatly overpriced, fractured the community, and also just made people lose interest. I lost interest when she came out. I'm like, you want $50 for that? I'm like, even the peak of KOF, like, asset reuse was never that bad. Like, yeah, they used that same Kyo and Iori sprite for, like, 15 years, but they added, like, a decent amount of new stuff. I cannot say the same for Blaze Blue. Blaze Blue felt like they were trying to see, like, what they could get away with. Like, yeah, you need to be competitive on this game, you need to buy another $50 disc with one new character. Quite literally a $50 balance patch. That's unheard of now. People complain about fighting games monetization now. I'm like, Blaze Blue was far worse. Much worse. I'll take battle passes and $30 costumes over having to buy another game, a whole other disc, with like 20% more content. Personally, as somebody who used to play a lot of Blaze Blue, I prefer that I'm not sure everybody would agree with me, but I definitely think that is the lesser of two evils.
マジで行くぞ。遊んでる。死にてんなら前に出ろ。
I'm surprised they didn't make a Central Fiction extend, but I guess the franchise was dead at that point, so they didn't want to. And I was expecting it. I was expecting Jubei to be, you know, like a $50 upgrade. They were nice and they just made him DLC. And like, yeah, we're done milking you guys. You can just buy the character. You don't have to buy a whole ass disc again. I think it was less the price that was the problem. It was more that it was fracturing the community. I know for a fact that some people didn't like the new versions and also didn't want to buy it. So that definitely held things back a lot. Should have done something like this game a lot sooner. This game is taking old sprites and doing something really fun with it. Oh, another thing that killed BlazBlue was Coco Noe. Coco Noe and Chrono Phantasma was DLC, and she was like the most broken character in the game by a large margin. That's where the term, you might have heard the term 800 yen tier. That's where that came from, was BlazBlue. The character was so busted. Like one of the most busted characters in like a legit fighting game. That was another thing that kind of put the nail in the coffin for BlazBlue, in my opinion. They basically only like nerfed her because they got a lot of complaints. They called her Broken Away. Good times. BlazBlue is like the most mismanaged, successful fighting game franchise. I just find it interesting that, like, Guilty Gear had that problem, too.
かかってこい
With
よ
having, like, so many different versions of Double X. But it never got that bad. Slash Kai was pretty busted.
手が出ねえか
I remember that. That was like the most fun version of Kai was, Slash Kai was really fun.
本気にさせてみろよ
It never got to the heights of over monetization that Blaze Blue did.
ナイトメアエッジおりゃじっとしてろてめえナイトメアエッジ上等だ仕方ねえおりゃなんだよナイトだけんなおりゃ仕方ねえじっとしてろ上等だんだよじっとしてろ急げ上等だ負ける気がしねえなじっとしてろんだよ上等だ落ちろかかってこいよマジで行くぞその程度か死にてえんなら前に出ろ
Alright, folks, I have a little bit more work to do here. I gotta refill their cat food, and there's one of the cats is a picky eater, so I need to feed him. But, no promises, but I really want to play some Atlas Fallen tonight, so I might just go change clothes, take my meds, and I might just hop on this, because I'm actually really enjoying what little I played of this. The port sucks, but I'm having fun playing it. Kind of wanted to give it a chance. Slime game, I did finish, but there's more post-game. I honestly want to look online, see if anyone else did it, if it's worth doing. If not, then I'm going to wait for the DLC and post a review probably like tomorrow. So let me go do those things. Let me see if anybody else went through the memory corridor, which is basically just a bunch of post-game boss fights. I don't know if you get anything for it. Seems like all the replay value of this game is held off in the DLC. So I probably won't play any more of this on stream. This is probably demoted to an off-stream game. Atlas Fallen is probably my next stream game. And if I get some extra money, I might add Reynatus to the schedule because I have more time than I thought. I thought Slime game was going to be a lot longer, but this is out on Switch right now. I'm tempted to get the Switch version and just dump it. I don't know. This game actually looks pretty decent. Just overpriced, and people keep complaining about the graphics. I don't really mind the graphics. It looks fun enough, but the price is kind of a little bit out of my range right now. So we'll see. I've got some more bills to pay and groceries to buy and shit. After I do that, I might add this to the lineup for another game, because I don't think this will take 2 weeks. I basically have a free 2 weeks right now. I thought Slime game was going to take a lot longer, but I ended up beating it in just short of 10 hours. So we'll see. Anyway, I got some stuff to do here. I'll probably see you guys later tonight. We'll play some Atlas Fallen. See you later. Good night, everybody. See you soon.